Oh boy. Look, I really wish I could get this one over with quickly. Just slap a rating on it and call it a day. But for your entertainment, I'm gonna give you the full rundown. Just to make sure everyone's on the same level with me. Going into the show, there was a lot riding on Eve. Not only was it the definitive finale for the main story we've been following over the last 7.5 years, it was also already delayed for a full season, giving at least the illusion that Satellite gave enough of a fuck to try and deliver on the promise of finally ending this franchise's decade of suffering, somehow being the most successful grassroots original anime property this side of fate. It was gonna be big and awesome and blow your brains out amazing stuff, and you know what? It really delivered on being peak Symphogear, to the point where I did in fact find myself wanting to plaster my own grey matter over the next best work of architecture. However, owing to being relatively recent, I do quite distinctly remember that I was rather skeptical from the beginning, and openly voiced my concerns with the releases of various PVs. By the way, I've actually started setting myself some New Year's resolutions, and for 2020, I actually hope to finally get into some sort of regular release. Fuck. Wait, what? Where am I? What is this? Wait, you mean to tell me I already wrote a script for this video as well? Fuck me. Yeah, so Eve definitely falls into a category of a rewatch at this point. In fact, today marks the 4-year anniversary of the official end of Symphogear. And boy, let me tell you, this was by far the most painful one so far. Not only are my memories of my first watch of Eve relatively recent and active, even when you compare them to the previous episodes at their much earlier time of writing, there was also nothing around to challenge my opinions on it, mostly due to a certain incident that started with docs and ended with swatting, isolating me from the Symphogear community, so I apologize if I end up being too harsh during this one, but I have to at least finish what I started for once. Actually getting to the show now, my first major problem with this season of Symphogear slaps us in the face right from the get-go. Some giraffe thought that in a show that, if for nothing else, is renowned for its utterly insane opener scenes, it would be a fantastic way to kick off the final season by grinding the already kinda weak fight to a complete halt in the middle to introduce us to the bad guys and give us some completely out-of-place exposition that lasts for half the episode before returning us to the action. Originally, I thought that this would be where the bad part of the episode ended, but on rewatch, thinking back to this idea makes me genuinely cringe, as the post-credits scene kinda loops back into the episode's cold open, completely denying 4 seasons of world building by suddenly giving the gods of this world corporeal bodies. Now, I won't blame you if this doesn't strike you wrong, or even strike you at all, but coming from the mouth of someone who's literally gone clinically insane over this show's lore, just watch any of the previous season's lore exposition dumps and you should catch my drift. It touches on some really cool shit in all the wrong places. It even directly contradicts what Adam Weishaupt said when he was defeated during the finale of the season prior. We continue into episode 2, where we break the show's continuity even more by comfortably seating Eve on the timeline 3 decades after G, the events of which are later mentioned to have taken place only 1 year ago. As a bit of consolation, we do get a nice respite and some spicy memes with this season's concert scene, but who am I kidding? This show can't help but keep up its streak of both copying and invalidating the past 4 seasons, especially G, leading us to abandon all of Tsubasa's character development in exchange for some American fried pastry. Over the next few episodes, it's revealed that, just like every single time before, there's more to our villains than lets on, with the human-monster hybrid family trio we were promised only being pawns to the one and only baddie daddy that was already revealed 2 seasons prior-ish. We're also introduced into how this trio, Noble Red, work, and what their abilities are, but on a rewatch, I really can't say that any of this stuff phases me for reasons that will become apparent later. First, we have to dismantle this season's power-up, and oh boy, this one's a doozy. Amalgam starts off incredibly strong in episode 4, giving us not only the inarguably biggest banger of the season, but also ends on what I would argue to definitely be one of the entire franchise's most unconventional, unexpected, and interesting cliffhangers. Absurdly enough, however, the song is a remix of a B-side from Axis, and the conflict set up by the cliffhanger is resolved in a single episode's worth of time, so neither of these positives really matter in the larger picture, especially given how incredibly forgettable the rest of Xyz's soundtrack is, especially compared to an, at the time of airing, 3-year-old song that was already regarded as one of the entire franchise's finest, despite never making an appearance on screen before. I will concede that the episode does have one saving grace for this desperate Bulbasaur grasping at the last straw-like objects they can find, though. Noble Red's big finisher move in this encounter is Chekhov's first gun that's properly being loaded with a good amount of certainty that it will fire as they summon Daedalus's Labyrinth. A philosophical weapon, the namesake of which, end to end, conveniently stretches exactly the length from Earth to the celestial body the show has been obsessed with since Season 1, which also featured in the previously mentioned Cold Open. Gee, I wonder where this could be going. Okay, I said that in a really sarcastic tone, but honestly, at this point, having at least some degree of predictability where things are going is the main thing that comforts you on your way through this ironically labyrinthian hellscape of a hack writer's brain. Anyhow, so Amalgam not only marks one of the highest points of the entire franchise, with its build-up and introduction being framed in an absolutely fantastic way that truly plays to all of Symphogear's strengths and Hibiki's prevalent themes, drenching it in genuine ubiquitous hype, it also becomes our first overarching issue outside of the concept of remixing the previous seasons in the worst way possible, with the writers deciding that what they came up with for the reveal was way too cool for this train wreck of a show, so instead of actually carrying the things set up in the reveal over into Amalgam's other occurrences for the other wielders, they had the brilliant idea to completely remove the elements that made the reveal so amazing, and instead make it completely based on when the characters reach their highest point of the central theme of Xyz: egoism and desperation, which, despite having some minor decent payoff, is just about as nice of a pairing with Symphogear as nail clippings with a prime ribeye steak. Noble Red are a fantastic concept that could do really well in Symphogear, with enough potential to completely eclipse the extremity of Fine, the personalities of the autoscorers, and the memehood of Vare. They're a set of villains that you genuinely start to care about and empathize with, as social rejects that simply want to live in peace as a found family after having been turned into monsters by remnants of the Bavarian Illuminati, but all they end up being is a giant waste of screen time. First, they are used as puppets and completely humiliated and demolished by Fudo, who takes over as our central villain for like 2 episodes, just for Noble Red to come back from the dead, die again in the same episode, and then return again 2 episodes later, this time rebuilt and brainwashed by our true final boss, Shemha, the god uncovered in episode 1, and later revived with Miku as a vessel, and all of that only so they can then have a big emotional change of heart leading towards the climax to justify them sacrificing themselves for the wielders in what ends up feeling like exactly the same way as the alchemists the season prior. It was an incredibly ballsy but just as interesting and potentially brilliant choice to make the villains the characters that represent the central themes of humanity and family from previous seasons, while turning the main cast into nail clippings, but it is completely lost in how comically overblown and utilitarian they actually are in the story, completely reduced to cannon fodder with their constant switching between being dead and alive, taking up unprecedented amounts of screen time that could have been spent following some of what feels like hundreds of interesting plot threads that stay completely unexplored. Oh, nice. They're bringing up Apple again, questioning the origin of Ergedlam and how it all connects with Maria's ancestors and the finale of G, because the Aufwachen wave form of the relic retrieved from the god we found in episode 1 is a mangled version of the song. Well, guess what? This thread gets completely dropped halfway in, and while there is some subtext here and there, for any further development of this idea, you have to look at the song title of said mangled version of Apple on the OST disc that comes with the second volume of the Blu-ray release, see that it's called Lingua Franca, and put 2 and 2 together yourself, which would be a really cool way of rounding this concept out, but not to complete it after wasting 4 episodes on setting the idea up and then not actually doing anything with it. You fucking giraffes! How is it possible that you had Nana Mizuki write 3 absolute bangers for this season and pick by far the worst fit for the opening? Don't get me wrong, Metanoia is an absolutely fantastic song, but it has no place being a Symphogear OP. It's too slow, too brooding and harsh. It fails to set a fitting mood or build appropriate tension for any given episode. I don't care that the kana for Metanoia spell in the name of love, or Ai no Tame, backwards. Final Commander would have been not only a much better fit for the OP, but also for the finisher against Shemha, ignoring how much of an absolute banger it is. Fuck, I can even prove that it was considered to be the OP originally, because it has an Aufwachen form, which is a thing only openings had up until this exact point. How do you direct the final season of your anime giant with this much fucking oversight? It's giraffes all the way down! Why does a power-up so exceptionally well introduced end up stooping below the lowest lows the show has ever seen before? You already did it in Axis, and now you did it with episode 4 of this season. If you can give us the conceptual perfection of magical girl transformations and deliver incredibly potent fan service with them at the same time, then why can you not already fully commit to Standogia? The show is already ridiculous enough as it is. Have a single fucking shred of self-awareness and commit to Maho Jojo. Why is the music so unmemorable? Why do art and animation drop below the level of G at some points? Why can't I shake off the feeling that all Kaneko wanted to do with this season is to finally get his way and have a Wild Arms anime made? I don't give a flying fuck that Chris Pop's much better in fights now because she switched her dinky auto pistols for revolvers. How can it be that the unanimously agreed on best scene of the show happens only halfway in at the latest? This is just a light drizzle of mountain beheading action with nothing behind it. Not Symphogear.